Profiles in Evil. Lockport's Sanitary Sewer Scandal. A public health crisis worse than Flint, Michigan. This book is the third in a series exposing organized crime at the highest levels of government. This current expose will detail the massive public health violations that are worse than the violations in Flint, Michigan. The corruption is part of the same RICO enterprise that was exposed in the previous book, The History of RICO Violations, in the planning, federal project approvals, and construction of I-355 in Will County. The urban sprawl development practices have caused enormous problems with infrastructure costs and rising tax burdens, which are already the highest in the nation. This RICO enterprise involves connected politicians, law firms, contractors, developers, attorneys, and judges. This corruption has been in place for decades and allowed unlawful property acquisitions based upon advanced knowledge of tollway interchange locations. The purpose of this expose is to show organized crime's involvement in the construction of the I-355 Tollway and the current Lockport Sanitary Sewer Scandal, which was orchestrated by the casino lobby out of Las Vegas. Their involvement in pay-to-play bribery schemes is fully documented, involving the most powerful politicians in Illinois history, including the Office of the Attorney General and the courts. This series will provide the necessary information for prosecutors, attorneys, and the citizens of Lockport and Will County. It will provide the information in order to have your property taxes cut in half because of the unlawful sanitary sewer connections and damages that were caused to properties. It will also provide to you the necessary documentation in order to request a hearing to contest the charges on your water and sewer bills, demanding refunds for fraudulent charges. It will also provide necessary documentation to report to your banks the changes in the assessed valuations of your properties, which will no longer justify the mortgages that are being held on your properties. And these damages are going to be paid for by the city and the contractor who caused these fraudulent activities. There are dozens of files containing court and legal documents found at our website of wujidao.us under the Lockport Files. You can also visit our Facebook page of the Lockport Files. My involvement in this sanitary sewer scandal started on June 29th of 2021. We had a severe rainstorm, and the floor drains in my basement began to flood the basement. My home was built in 1909, and the basement floor drains are connected to the sanitary sewer line. The sanitary sewer system was put in 1924. When this happened, I called Muir Plumbing, who was also the contractor for the city of Lockport, and they took a camera into my sewer line to see what was causing the backup of my sewer. The camera showed a blockage of some sort, and this was located under my neighbor's driveway. They charged me $637 for the inspection, which I promptly paid. I then contacted Sonny Williams, the city attorney for the city of Lockport, by email, and I notified her of all of the issues of my sanitary sewer running through somebody else's property. I sent several other emails to the city of Lockport and Austin Tyler, and those went to Sonny Williams and also to a city councilman whose name was J.R. Gilligley. J.R. Gilligley, not only as a councilman, was the regional branch manager for a company called EJCO. EJCO is the world's largest supplier to municipalities of water and sewer materials and equipment. He's a connected developer as well. All of these emails carefully informed everyone of the violations of state law and the city's own codes in having a sanitary sewer lateral running through somebody else's property without a right of easement and being disconnected from a sanitary sewer line. I tried everything to get the city to respond to this situation, including emails that were sent to Ben Benson, who was the city manager, and they did nothing. It was not until September 24th of 2021 that the city agreed to pay the cost of digging up my neighbor's driveway to make the repairs to the damaged sewer line. The photos that follow show the area of the blockage was flooded and there had been a cleanout connected to the damaged and shattered drainage tiles, which are clearly seen in the photographs. This damage to the old sanitary sewer lines has occurred throughout the city, and the uneven settling has caused an old sanitary sewer connections to no longer maintain a watertight connection between the pipe lengths. The original mortar joints have separated, causing sanitary sewers to leak and combine with storm waters. My home has no legal connection to a sanitary sewer. My home suffered considerable structural damage to the foundation, the plaster walls, the floors, and the roof because of the activities of Austin Tyler. This is all fully detailed in my book, and I submitted a complaint to the Will County Board of Review challenging the assessment of the valuation of my home because of all of the damage that had occurred to it. I attached an 88-page draft of my book as part of my complaint, and the Board of Review accepted those and reduced my assessed valuation by over 50%. There are hundreds of homes in Lockport that have unlawful sanitary sewer connections. Just as my house had a sanitary sewer line running through my backyard onto my neighbor's properties, many homes have their sewer lines running through the front yards of their neighbor's properties. And the evidence for this are these new 6-inch PVC sanitary cleanouts showing the change of direction where the sewer comes directly out of the front of the house and then makes a 90-degree turn running through the front yards of their neighbors' properties. You can see these 6-inch cleanouts throughout the city, and they are all illegal connections running through neighbors' front yards. And there's never been a recording of an easement allowing this to happen. They are unlawfully running through everybody's properties and nobody knows it. It is unlawful. On page 26 of my book, it will state that easement deeds can be recorded in the county where the property is located. This is pursuant to Chapter 765 ILCS Section 5/28. All easement deeds that are authorized to be recorded will take effect and be in force from and after the time the deed is filed for record with the county recorder and not before, as to all creditors and subsequent purchasers without notice. All such deeds will be void as to all such creditors and subsequent purchasers without notice until they are filed for record. pursuant to 765 ILCS 5/30. This unlawful practice and damage to existing sanitary sewer lines is a widespread problem affecting hundreds of homes in the historic Lockport district. I have located dozens of homes within a 3-block radius of my home. What the city has done to these old sanitary sewer lines is to provide a 6-inch PVC standpipe where the old sanitary sewer lines changed direction and traveled hundreds of feet through adjacent properties until it connected with the main sanitary sewer line. This was the practice where the sewer lines were running to the front of the property, but similar to the condition with my home and my neighbor's house, these sanitary lines sometimes ran to the rear of the properties and traveled through the backyards of adjacent properties. Here is a photograph of my neighbor's house 2 doors down from me, where his sanitary sewer line is running through his neighbor's property on the corner of 5th and Washington. There are 2 standpipes here. One was one that he put in, and the other was the one that the city put in. But as you take a look at how this travels, it connects on the corner where the water pipe is in the same trench. Here is a photograph from 311 East 4th Street, which was a duplex that was built in the 80s. Each duplex has a sanitary sewer line running through the front, and then it makes a 90-degree turn traveling west, and both lines connect together and travel through the property of the neighbor street. These locations of standpipes and cleanouts are all indicated where the new storm sewer was put in on one side of the street, and lines were not able to go through and reconnect to the sanitary sewer lines, so they were run hundreds of feet in other directions in order to make the connection to the sanitary sewer line. This next photograph is interesting because it connects to a home that is very close to my home, but it runs through the backyard of the corner house until it reaches the front on Washington Street, and then it makes a turn going to the south where it connects with the same sewer line where the condominiums on the other side of the street were located. Here, this sanitary sewer line is running several hundred feet through the backyard of the neighbor. There are several photographs in the book showing the direction of the sanitary sewer line, and then you'll see a blue stripe painted on the curb, and these are indications of where the city's water service is coming in. And oftentimes the water is in the same trench as the sanitary sewer, which is also a violation of public health codes. The city spent a fortune on a program of putting in new storm sewers for the purpose of preserving the sanitary sewer system. But what they did, in fact, was to completely damage and destroy the existing sanitary sewer lines by putting in the storm sewer, using over $150 million of federal grant money to tear up the old streets and put in new streets and curbs without installing new sanitary sewer connections. In September of 2020, a 92-page report for the city of Lockport was submitted by Strand Associates entitled Illicit Discharge Detection and Elimination Program. The purpose of this report, as stated on page 1 of the document, was as follows. The purpose of the Illicit Discharge Detection and Elimination Program is to identify potential illegal connectors and discharges to the municipal separate storm sewer system and eradicate them as quickly and with as little damage as possible. Illicit discharges, which can make up a large percentage of the pollutants found in MS4 discharges, derive from sanitary sewers, septic tank effluent, road spills, car wash wastewater, and improper disposal of household and automobile wastes. Untreated discharges can enter the storm sewer system directly from a sanitary sewer connection or indirectly from a sanitary sewer leak. The pollutants produced by direct and indirect untreated discharges can vastly degrade water quality. Much of the damages that occurred to the old sanitary sewer system were caused by vibration damage from the use of heavy compacting equipment used in road construction. There are federal laws and guidelines as to how this kind of vibratory equipment can be used safely. And taken from a website known as vibrationdamage.com, here are charts and graphs showing what the safe distances are in order to use the vibration equipment that was used by Austin Tyler. These heavy rollers weigh thousands of pounds and vibrate thousands of times a minute. It's like constant earthquakes with the vibration that can be caused. And the proper distance for homes in the historic district of Lockport is supposed to be at least 80 feet, at least 80 feet. But with my home, the foundation is only 39 feet from the curb of the street. The damages caused to my foundation were irreparable. But the damages to all of the old sanitary sewer lines was also irreparable. All of these old clay pipes that were put into ditches with stone as a bedding material have all been affected because these vibration caused compaction of the soil, and they unevenly compacted, causing all of the mortar joints to break apart. This vibration damage did much other kinds of damage, as in my neighbor's home, where her air conditioning equipment up in her attic had all of the insulation from the roof fall into the drain pan of the air conditioning unit because of the excessive vibrations, causing a blockage to the drain, and then the water was leaking out onto the plaster ceiling of her living room. The entire 1-inch thick plaster ceiling fell. She is so lucky that she was not in the living room when this happened, because it would have killed her. But you can see the drain pan and all the insulation that fell out of the roof insulation because of the excessive vibration damage that was caused by Austin Tyler's vibratory equipment. The damage to her home was excessive, and she could have been killed. All of the homes that were located near these streets, within 80 feet of the streets, received excessive damage. There'll be cracking in the walls. There'll be uneven settling with the foundations. Your windows and doors might stop operating differently. Here with my own home, when I bought the house, I had 1-inch original plaster walls and ceilings, not a crack anywhere, beautiful original oak floors that were gorgeous and had just been redone before I bought the house. And all of that because of the excessive vibrations that occurred and the uneven settling of the foundation and the flooding of the soil because of the sanitary sewer acting as a storm sewer caused incredible damages to my home. My home was in beautiful shape when I bought the house, but the fact that it had an unlawful sanitary sewer connection that had never been recorded by an easement was a hidden defect that the city knew all about and kept it hidden. They've been covering up all these unlawful sanitary sewer connections. My house was purchased by fraud because the city kept secret all of the unlawful sanitary sewer connections. When I bought my house, I did extensive remodeling and put a lot of money into reconditioning my house. And fortunately, the way that I did this helped to stiffen the wall structures on the foundation, which later completely unsettled and buckled. But it did help quite a bit in maintaining some of the structural integrity of the house. But when I did all of this work, the house was in beautiful shape, everything level, plumb, and square. But then, because of the excessive settling and uneven settling of the earth, changing the bearing for the foundations and also for the sanitary sewer lines, and then the flooding that occurred because of the changes in the compaction of the ground, the damages were irreparable to my home. There are numerous sources of information online addressing the issue of soil compaction from the vibration damage and some of the principles that cause and aggravate more damage than others. And a lot of that is the moisture content of the soil, which, because of what they did with the sanitary sewer lines and the changes of drainage, only aggravated the problems. And here it also talks about vibratory rollers and how vibratory rollers can have a huge impact on soil compaction because of the vibrations that are occurring. And with the combination of the accumulation of stormwater in the soil and the excessive use of the vibratory rollers in violation of the different standards or distance standards that were supposed to be used and were ignored, my home suffered irreparable harm, which is why the Will County Board of Review reduced the assessed valuation of my home by over 50% because of no longer being connected to a sanitary sewer line and because of the extensive structural damages that occurred in my home. The use of these vibratory rollers allowed Austin Hiler to go through their construction process for the roadbed very, very quickly. And this made them a lot of money. But they never should have been allowed to operate illegally with vibratory rollers so close to our homes and causing so much damage to the existing sanitary sewer lines, which were also 100 years old. When these homes were built back after 1909 and before World War II, they were built with limestone foundation walls where the foundation was dug by hand. This was before we had bulldozers and concrete foundations. After World War II, those homes were built using bulldozers where there was compaction of the soil by the bulldozers, and they had solid concrete foundations, not stone or block foundations with mortared joints, a completely different set of circumstances. So in these homes after World War II that had bulldozers digging and doing the excavation work and also compacting the soil around the foundation walls, that ground was already compacted from the bulldozers. But the older homes built before World War II, those foundations were dug by hand and there was no compaction of the soil by heavy equipment like a bulldozer. So that soil did not have the type of compaction. And when they used the vibratory rollers, the damage was so excessive of uneven compaction of the soil because of the moisture problems. Here, you'll see photographs now of water coming up through the cracks of the basement floor. This isn't ordinary seepage. This is a completely separate situation where the excessive water accumulation now, because of the changes of compaction of soil, caused incredible water pressure to build up underneath the slab, lifting the slab up and causing cracks and for the water to pour in from underneath the foundation, underneath the slab. This is not normal seepage. This is all due to the soil compaction issues caused by Austin Tyler's unlawful use of vibratory rollers, violating the distance requirements. And here you can see existing floor drains that were also being flooded because the sanitary drains were now acting as storm sewer drains because all of the joints had been dislodged. All the old mortar joints are no longer watertight. So now the excessive buildup of water underneath my slab was seeping right in to the sanitary sewer drains, causing the flooding. And here you can see photographs now of the beautiful oak floor that I used to have, and all the uneven buckling of the slab caused uneven heaving of the floors up above, splitting apart the existing oak floors, destroying the existing oak floors because of the uneven settling and heaving of the basement floors, which then transmitted to the first floor up above. In my home, this also caused a shifting between some of the foundations in my house, and this caused excessive damage to the roof up above. And now there was drainage problems because of the leaking roof, where the shingles of the roof itself split apart because of the uneven shearing and settling of the foundation. The original foundation of my home was done in 1909, but there was an addition done to my house in 1934 using concrete block. And these different construction types cause different amounts of settling and separation from the uneven settling, which caused the damages of in the walls, with cracking appearing everywhere now for the uneven settling. And again, this uneven settling caused the roofing shingles of my house to split apart. You can actually see cracks in the roofing shingles, which is what caused the leaking of the roof into my dining room and my sunroom, where the two different roofs that were one built from the addition in 1934, one part of the original foundation of 1909, they moved and settled at different rates, splitting apart. And this stress caused the roofing shingles themselves to crack and split apart, causing excessive leaking and damage, which I've had to constantly patch and replace. And this occurred over each freeze-thaw cycle of the ensuing 3 winters that occurred, because this will aggravate the movement and damage of soil during the freeze-thaw cycle. And this is what happened. Every spring, there would be more movement as the ground heaved and moved, adjusting to differences in soil compaction. The damages were horrific, structurally for the foundation, as well as for the roofing shingles, for the plaster walls, for the oak flooring. My home is destroyed. It will have to be torn down. It is no longer structural. The damages cannot be fixed. Currently, I have patching going on all over the roof, addressing the problems as it continues to shift. It appears now that the compaction, most of it, the uneven settling, has already occurred, And so far, the roofing seems to be somewhat stable with all the patching that I've done over the last 3 years. But you can see from the following series of photographs what happened with the foundation walls and all of the cracking. When you have an old limestone foundation wall or concrete block wall that was done before they did concrete foundations, one of the ways that you would waterproof and protect that wall that was going to be buried was by doing something called parging, where you would take a skim coat of really, really good mortar, almost like plaster, and use that to skim over the entire surface of the limestone foundation or the concrete block wall to make it waterproof. Here is a picture of the inside of the foundation wall on top of the footing. Now, I had used a material called Supertherm to paint the interior walls of my basement, acting as a moisture barrier and an infrared barrier as well. But this helps to preserve the integrity of the wall by not allowing for moisture transmission. Here again, you see another section of the wall where the parging has simply cracked off and cracked everywhere because of the vibration movement of the limestone blocks underneath the parging. Once that parging is disturbed, moisture can leak into the mortar between the limestone blocks, causing severe degradation. This occurs in the mortar as moisture weeps through. Here you can see cracking of the concrete that I had poured when I bought the house and reinforced with rebar. But because of the vibration and the slab and the ground underneath it, the movement was so excessive it caused this rebar reinforced concrete to crack apart and pull apart from the foundation wall, where it had been pinned by rebar into the existing foundation. This is how excessive the settling and compaction of the ground can cause so much structural damage. Not only was there structural damage to the house itself, but the movement of the ground caused the structures themselves to move in mass. My garage shifted its location, and so did my neighbor's garage, so that it's no longer on the property lines. It's now moved off the property lines. Here is a series of GPS photographs, which are more clearly demonstrated in the book. But from the GPS from satellites, you can see how the structures of the garages and the homes have actually shifted off of the property lines onto the other properties. My garage is now 2 feet over the old property line, but all of the structures themselves moved when the ground shifted. So now my garage is no longer strictly conforming to the requirements of being on my lot. They're now existing. My neighbor's garage is on my neighbor's property. My garage is on my neighbor's property. It's a horrific situation. Here are some of the old photographs of how beautiful the surfaces and the lot, how flat the lots were before the problems with the uneven soil compaction. Because of the uneven soil compaction, my side yard has actually dropped a total of 12 inches from where it originally was. It was nice and flat. My driveway was beautiful and flat without cracking. Everything was in perfect shape before Austin Tyler came in with their vibratory rollers and caused so much damage. Now my side yard is no longer flat. My driveway is tipping and cracked like crazy. And the actual side yard, you can see now, has dropped 12 inches from where it was in the previous photograph from the soil compaction and the changes now in water drainage that are occurring because of it. In the next photograph, you could see the difference in my driveway of how the uneven compaction has caused cracking everywhere and settling everywhere. It was devastating, just devastating, the structural damages that occurred because of the vibration damage. And the differences of the before and after pictures, before there was vibration damage and after, are quite different. In the following photograph, you can see what it looked like before the vibration damage. You can see how flat the driveways were, no cracks, everything level, plumb, and square, everything in beautiful shape, nice and flat and smooth. But with the uneven soil compaction from the vibratory damage, the structural damages that occurred, they were horrific, just horrific. Here is another photograph showing how flat the surfaces of the side yard were before the soil compaction and vibration damage from Austin Tyler's road construction. Everything was flat, smooth, and structural. My home existed in good condition for 100 years until Austin Tyler used their vibratory rolling compactors. The city of Lockport took the position that they were indemnified by any damage to my property by Austin Tyler as the contractor. Of course, this is completely false, but I did nonetheless file claims with their insurance company. Here are some of the emails that were sent to Novi Esguerra, who was the claims adjuster for Travelers Insurance for their client Austin Tyler. They had ignored all of my claims and emails. Then they sent this email to me. John, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. As mentioned, we are in the beginning stage of our investigation. I will reach out to you once our investigation is complete. I wanted to reiterate that if you believe the damage is a hazard to you or your property, as the legal owner of the property, you have the legal rights to mitigate your damages while we are in the course of our investigation. Just please document all the repairs, take photos, and keep all invoices. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I also received another email that said, John, I will reach out to Austin Tyler to discuss this new information regarding the repair to the sanitary drain line. Once review of this new information is complete, I will reach out to you. I had sent an email to the insurance company notifying them that the city did an inspection of the sanitary line and had discovered that Austin Tyler had disconnected the sanitary line 15 months earlier when they were doing their road construction, and that my sanitary sewer line had been disconnected for over 15 months. And now the city ordered them to make the repairs, so there was proof that Austin Tyler did cause the damage. Tom Thanis was acting as city attorney for Lockport. He had also been the city manager for Joliet. Tom Thanis left that position in a controversy alleging corruption involving illicit drug sales at the Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet. The operators of the Speedway, based out of Las Vegas, were shut down in California because of their involvement with drug sales. Tom Thanis had an office in Las Vegas as the attorney and lobbyist for the Empress Casino based out of Las Vegas. It was Tom Thanis' predecessor, the lobbyist for the Empress Casino, Alfred G. Ronan, who acted as the bag man for the unlawful acquisitions of property related to I-355. This is well documented in my investigation of the RICO violations in the planning, project approvals, and construction of I-355. The involvement of the connected law firm Dunn, Martin, and Miller, and the acts of forgery and perjury by the Assistant Attorney General Michael Martin involving an unlawful corrupt land acquisition is also well documented in my previous book. Michael Martin acted as the attorney for Prologis in the controversial zoning case allowing a huge, outrageous multimodal freight operation to occur next to a wildlife sanctuary and surrounded by 650 homes here in Lockport. Prologis is also based out of Las Vegas and has a history of corruption involving land acquisitions there. I met with Tom Thanis and Ben Benson, the city manager, to discuss the pro-lodge zoning deal and was threatened by Tom Thanis with a malicious abuse of process involving my previous lawsuits with IDOT and my previous attempts to expose the corruption involving the I-355 Tollway. Federal RICO statutes are applicable here because of the fraud and corruption as well as the mail fraud, wire fraud, extortion, and obstruction of justice. Those provisions are attached here. Under the provisions of Title 18, Section 1962 of the U.S. Code, under Prohibited Activities, Paragraph A, it shall be unlawful for any person who has received any income derived directly or indirectly from a pattern of racketeering activity to use or invest directly or indirectly any part of such income or the proceeds of such income in acquisition of any interest in or the establishment or operation of any enterprise which is engaged in or the activities of which affect interstate or foreign commerce. Under paragraph D, it shall be unlawful for any person to conspire to violate any of the provisions of subsection A. And pursuant to 18 U.S. Code Section 1961, racketeering activity means any act or threat involving bribery or extortion, and any act which is indictable under any of the following provisions of Title 18 of the United States Code, including Section 201 relating to bribery, Section 1341 relating to mail fraud, Section 1343 relating to wire fraud, Section 1503 relating to obstruction of justice, Section 1510 relating to obstruction of criminal investigations, Section 1511 relating to the obstruction of state or local law enforcement, Section 1512 relating to tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant, Section 1513 relating to retaliating against a witness, victim, or an informant, Section 1951 relating to interference with commerce, robbery, or extortion, and Section 1952 relating to racketeering. The casinos needed traffic to generate sales, and the tollway was built for that purpose, and urban sprawl was the intended object of the connected land use plans, even though it was well established that this would cause severe economic hardship on the local homeowners, as well as excessively high taxation. Local and state politicians misrepresented these facts and contributed to the corruption of public policy issues. In 1992, the DuPage County Regional Planning Commission issued a landmark study called The Impacts of Development on DuPage County Property Taxes. This study examined the effects of the tollway construction and the development of the Woodfield Shopping Mall and surrounding commercial developments. The result of the study evidenced that commercial developments and highway construction caused a significant increase in property taxes for residential property owners and a significant reduction in the quality of living due to constant road construction and increased traffic congestion. Our local and state officials were well aware of this effect of urban sprawl development, but the influence of organized crime and revenues for connected contractors, law firms, politicians, the courts, and corrupt judges and attorneys working with the casino lobby was responsible for the deceptions and fraudulent promises of reduced taxes with increased developments. This is the mailing list for a complaint that I have filed against our current city attorney of Lockport. His name is Michael F. Carroll. During my investigations of the sanitary sewer scandal, I discovered numerous violations of state and federal laws. This current complaint involves the city's violations and cover-up of the city's published codes pertaining to water and sewer services found under the city's code at 51.131 through 51.999. The city's code provides for a resident's rights to a hearing to contest the water and sewer bills that they have been issued. The code requires that any notice pertaining to a threat of shutoff or discontinuation of service must also contain a notice of these hearing rights to contest the city's actions. The city is required to provide a standardized form for the resident to complete in order to initiate the hearing process. Because my home has no lawful or functional connection to the city's sanitary sewer system, I decided to object to my history of billing charges for the sewer services. This is the public health scandal that is detailed in my book on Lockport's cover-up of the biggest public health scandal since the scandal took place in Flint, Michigan. My home and hundreds of other homes do not have lawful or functional connections to the city's sanitary sewers. This condition has been in place for over 70 years, allowing sanitary discharges into our yards and our neighbors' yards, and eventually affecting the water in our wells to use for drinking water. I noticed that my bills threatening a shutoff of service had no required notice of a right to a hearing to contest the charges as required under the city's code. I went to the city hall and requested the standardized form as required under the city's code to request a hearing. No one at City Hall knew what I was talking about. I showed them the city's code. They made several phone calls and eventually they explained that they had never used this form and they would have to create a form especially for me. This was on a Friday afternoon and it was agreed for me to return on Monday. I did receive the form on Monday and I completed it and I sent it by certified mail to the mayor, Stephen Street, as this is the proper procedure for service upon the city. The code actually required that I would send it to the council on sanitation and sewers, but we don't have a council that serves that purpose. So I sent it instead to the mayor. My request included the rough draft of my book of over 77 pages with an enormous amount of evidence and research to be presented at the hearing. This was the same package of information that I had provided to the Will County Assessor's Office in my hearing to challenge the assessed valuation of my property because of my being disconnected from the sanitary sewer and the extensive damages that occurred to my home because of the vibration damage. I received a response by email from the city notifying me of the date, time, and location of the proposed hearing. This notice only provided a week before the hearing scheduled on the 30th, and I needed more time to properly prepare for the record of the hearing. I was waiting to get advance copies of the book that had currently been published on Amazon instead of the rough draft that I had submitted. The notice that was provided to me was by Brittany Calderon in her capacity as assistant to the city administrator. The participation of the city administrator is provided for under section 51.135 of the preliminary procedures. I responded to the notice by email and notified Brittany Calderon that I was seeking my right to a continuance under section 51.135E, which specifically provides for the right of a continuance. I requested the hearing to be continued to October 23rd at 11 a.m. The code at section 51.131 definitions defines the hearing party as the Public Works Committee of the city and shall hereafter be named the administrative hearing party. On September 23rd, I received an email from Michael F. Carroll, the city's current city attorney, stating that on behalf of the Public Works Committee, he was denying my request for a continuance. He and his predecessors as city attorneys were all responsible for the numerous violations of law in this scandal involving numerous state and federal laws, including the failure to provide the required notices of hearing rights to persons receiving shut-off notices for their water and sewer services. I sent my emails in response advising him of the absolute right of a continuance, but he continued to act to obstruct my right to a fair hearing according to the city's code. This is a criminal act of obstruction and a further act to cover up the sanitary sewer scandal that is a threat to public health, safety, and welfare. His predecessors, City Attorney Judge Tom Thomas, had already threatened me with a malicious abuse of process, and the previous city attorney that I had dealt with, Sonny Williams, was fully informed of the scandal, and for her part in the cover-up, she received approvals to run for election as a circuit court judge. The city attorney issued a ruling on behalf of the Public Works Committee of the City of Lockport, and this was a blatant fraud. Everything that he had stated in his ruling was a misrepresentation of fact, denying me the opportunity to attend the hearing, and misstating all of the issues of proof that I had submitted to the committee. And in fact, there is no committee listed on the city's website. They invented the existence of this committee as a fraud. If I were to request under the Illinois Opens Meeting Act the minutes of the previous hearings of this committee, they would not be able to respond because there is no committee. This was a grand fraud. This is the city's official form, and I urge all of the citizens of Lockport to take this form, which is provided for on our website under the Lockport files, and to submit it, fill it out and submit it to the city, and ask for a hearing in order to preserve your rights to challenge your water and sewer bills. All of the materials evidencing the huge fraud and conspiracy and RICO violations concerning the construction of the tollway and the current sanitary sewer scandal are available on our website at wujidow.us under the section called the Lockport Files. You can also visit our Facebook page of the Lockport Files and our YouTube channel. I urge everyone in Lockport to become involved because it's going to affect your property values for your homes. This is a scandal bigger than the scandal involving Flint, Michigan, but the difference here, Flint, Michigan was based upon misconduct and malfeasance. This is based on organized crime and RICO violations. Thank you.